So you're in Greece right now. Are you in that area of Greece with like the white and blue buildings, or are you in a different area?
No, so that's more Santorini. I'm in Crete at the moment, so I'm kind of just on an island in the middle of the Med. But yeah, just a week out here with the family, and like you said, just getting away from the pool and everything, and it's been very, very nice and catching a bit of sun.
Are you an outdoor swimmer or an indoor swimmer?
I love outdoor swimming. So we went to this beach yesterday, and we had to drive down to get there, and I saw like a kind of a bay along. Must have been like I don't know, a K and a half along, and I was like, right, I just want to get myself there, set off, and it's just like my favorite thing to do. I love swimming in the sea whenever I'm on holiday. So yeah,
So
it's my
you're
favorite
still
thing.
swimming.
Yes, yes, not in a pool, but I'll happily set off on a Greek beach somewhere.
A natural pool. Yeah, I mean that doesn't sound so bad. All right, where's dinner? What are you getting into tonight?
We're just in the hotel tonight. I think we've kind of booked a pretty decent place here. So yeah, it's myself, three of my four siblings, and my mum are out here for a week. So yeah, we're gonna get stuck in. And my two brothers, I'm staying in an apartment with them, and they eat so much. So I think they're kind of going to make the most of the hotel buffet here tonight. Yeah, they eat more than I do. It's crazy. These two boys.
You might as well, right? Might as well. One of my
Yeah.
favorite vacations I ever went on was the all inclusive. I was like, I want to say like 12 years old. I think I had like 47 cream puffs in one sitting, and now if
Honestly.
I did that, I'd probably sleep for like a week and a half.
I think they make like a loss. Honestly, the amount of food that we eat, I think they make a loss on me and my two brothers, the amount we're going through. So yeah, that's the plan though.
I love it. I love it. I see you lifting up the left arm a little bit, and I noticed on Instagram, or maybe not Instagram, maybe it was Twitter, that you are an Omega ambassador. So we'll give a little plug to Omega. I'm sure that
There we go.
they'll notice that. What are you rocking? What kind of watch is it?
I actually got this just before I came out to Greece. It's the Apollo 8. So it's a bit unusual. I don't know how well you can see it on the camera, but it's a little bit of an unusual model. It's the Apollo 8 Dark Side of the Moon Speedmaster. I went into their flagship store in London, and I got spoken through the whole range as I have before, and I absolutely love the watches. And we discussed which one would be best suited for me, and we land on this one, and I love it. And it's you can see the mechanics behind it, and it's really exciting. And it's cool actually. I did a bit of media with them out in Japan for the Worlds, and it's really cool meeting all the other. There's a few Omega athletes, and it's a really great group to be a part of. So yeah, it's awesome. It's really exciting, and I love my watches. Ask anyone, I'm really into my watches. So it's kind of an ideal partnership when it came up.
Well, let's dive into the watch world then. So you were a watch guy before the Omega deal.
Absolutely, yeah, no, 100%. My mate Jimmy, James Guy, he's my training partner. He kind of got me into that world of watches and what was out there and exploring all the different ranges and stuff like that. And obviously, Omega's always been synonymous with swimming and with the Olympics. Obviously Michael Phelps being the main guy that everyone thinks of when they think of Omega and swimming, and he's still associated with the brand. And then you see their names plastered all over the Olympics. Obviously, they're the top timekeepers at the games and stuff. So this opportunity came along, and I was like, this is my favorite partnership. What a cool thing to be associated with. And, we got it signed however many months ago. And I was like, in the lead up to Paris as well, there's always like a big Omega house in the village and stuff. So, yeah, it's quite cool. But no, really into my watches. Thanks to Jimmy Guy.
Right on. Yeah, my dad got me into watches, and actually the watch that got me into it was an Omega Speedmaster that he had.
Yeah.
He ended up passing down a watch to me, which was a Breitling, which I think I could be completely down and out, not have a place to live, and I would still have that watch on my wrist.
Oh, 100%.
So if you're allowed to, I know you're an Omega ambassador. What other stuff do you have in your watch box?
Oh, I don't really have much else in my watch box. It's purely Omega, but it's more of an interest I've taken, and Jim and I have been able to discuss and, looking at all things from tags to Rolexes to Breitlings to some of the higher end, your Pateks and your APs and stuff like that. So it's a real appreciation for them. But yeah, without saying too much, it's Omega for me all the way. That's what I've got in my watch box.
Right on. Yeah, it seems like that's kind of the go-to piece of jewelry for guys. You're not going to be rocking like a Cuban link chain with a bunch of diamonds on it or anything.
Not just yet.
Paris.
We'll see how Paris goes. So maybe next time I drop in this pod, you'll have me with a big Cuban link around me. But yeah, I'm not really a chain guy. I'm not really a rings guy, and I just love once you get into the mechanics of watches, because people always say, oh, why do you spend so much on a watch? Or, why does a watch take so long to, hand make and stuff like that? But actually, once you dive in So like the art of watchmaking and the mechanics behind it, I think it's so cool. And like different purpose-built watches. Obviously, Omega known for their diving watches as well, which is really cool. So yeah, it's such an interesting world. And I feel like once you're hooked, it's one of those things. Once you get hooked on it, and you just anytime I'm out and about now, and I see people like I'm in London and stuff, see people walking around, I'm like spotting stuff on people's wrists, or even out here in Greece. It's really cool. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's an obsession. It's an obsession that I think you either have it or you don't. When you're introduced to like your first watch, I think it's kind of just like a litmus test for whether or not you're going to be addicted for the rest of your life. So you mentioned that one has kind of a smoked out back, I think is what they call it, right? When you can see the mechanics on the inside. So when you were in the Omega shop, maybe this will just be an Omega watch podcast. We'll just title it Talking About Omega Watches with Tom Dean. So you just got walked into the shop and they just kind of said, we'll try to find a watch that fits you. But in reality, you can just kind of pick whatever you want. Was that the gist of it?
Yeah, it's a bit of that, and it's being introduced to kind of their world. So it's not my first time in that shop. You know, even before I was even working with Omega, when I was like a young man and a teenager, it's their store on Regent Street, and it's literally right off Oxford Circus. I don't know how well you know London, but this is like the heart, right in the centre of London. So the busiest part of London, I'd say, you know, and everyone goes there for all their shopping and stuff, and you literally come right off Oxford Circus down Regent Street, and the store's there. So I've been going into that store when I was like a little kid. You know, I grew up in London, and or when I was a teenager, going back in and just going to around Soho, around the shops and stuff that I'd always go into. So I just loved going into the Omega store and into all these different watch stores and stuff like that. So going back there, and they're like, oh, welcome me in, and we go up to the top floor, and I meet all the kind of the big dogs of Omega. And then, them talking me completely through their whole range. You know, like you said, the Speedmaster was something that's like iconic, and I always had my eyes on that one. And the Speedmaster Moonwatch was one I really wanted, and I was able to get it as my first one with them, and then being invited back in and shown around. So yeah, it's a little bit of, do you have anything on your mind? It's a little bit of like, this is what we've got at the moment. This is our new range, which they've just brought out recently, the 75th anniversary for the Speedmaster, without sounding too much like an advert myself. But it was actually a really cool kind of walk through their world. And then, it's whatever suits you. And this one, as soon as I saw it, I was like, it's perfect. It's light. I wear it all the time. I can wear it when I'm playing golf. And it's really, really cool. And you don't see many of them. You know, I've not seen many of these about. So, that's how I landed on it.
I love it. So speaking of that watch in particular, if you had to bet your watch on whether or not the 4x100 freestyle relay world record goes down by the end of Paris, are you betting it on yes, or are you betting it on no? It's a world record that I think people don't really talk about enough. You know, we talked about Phelps' 400 IM world record. That one is a few days, I think like a day older. Was a day older than his, both in the 08 Olympics, and people talk about having to kind of fill that Lezak split of 46.0. So you got that watch on your wrist right now. I mean, we'll say if you place it on yes, you double it. If you place it on no, you lose it. You know, that
one
kind
on
of
each,
thing.
Like one on each wrist.
Yeah, there you go. Or both on the same wrist.
To be honest with you, mate, if we can make it out the heats this time and not like Japan, then I reckon we'd give it a good run for its money. It's crazy because even talking about that 4 world record, I remember when I was like a young swimmer and starting to learn more about the sport and kind of go through my teenage years, and Phelps always as the hero, and that 4 world record, you know, becoming the longest standing. I remember saying to my friends and stuff, I'm not even sure if I'll see that get broken, you know, for 10, 20, 30 years and stuff. People going, you know, no one had really gone 405 since like, you know, Lochte and obviously Higino and Che, so like people going 409s winning the Olympic stuff, and I was like, that's so far off the realms of possibility. You know, I don't think it's going to happen for a lot. And then lo and behold, along comes an incredible swimmer and it gets smashed out of the water, and that's how it is, and that's how sport works, and that's the beauty of it. And the fact I was able to be at the World Champs and sit there and watch it was so cool. So it's the same thing with this relay, mate. Honestly, I can see it's impossible until it's done, without sounding too cliched. And even that 46.0 split, you know, we've got a boy who's gone 46.1. You know, fair enough, you can say he had the perfect conditions, but then, you know, you kind of almost need the perfect conditions. You know, I've gone 6.6 or 6.7, I'm pretty sure, last year. Matt's absolutely on fire in his 100 at the moment. You know, we don't need something incredible, you know, because we've already got 3-4 incredible guys filling these spots, and people are hungry to get on that 4-1. Honestly, this year in Great Britain, I've never seen that 100 free be so competitive and so many people want it on that relay. It's like what the 4x2 was, because when I was coming up through the 200 free, I was like, I really want a piece of this 4x2. You know, these boys are world champions. They got the silver at the Olympics. I'd love to be a part of that team. And you could feel it starting to bubble up and starting to get stronger and stronger. And then, you know, we burst on the scene, and now we're Olympic champions and world champions, which is really cool. And it feels like the 4x1 is starting to follow that same trajectory. You know, we're knocking on the door of that 4x2 world record, and I've got a feeling we might be knocking on the door of the 4x1 in not too long. So, yeah, I'll put my watch on it. I'd back us, and I reckon if we're safely through, then we'll have a good chance at it.
Well, yeah, you took my follow-up question, which was going to be the 4x2. I mean, yeah, Great Britain's got, it's safe to say, a good thing going in the 100 and the 200 freestyles. Yeah, getting out of the heats is going to be important. But, I mean, that 4x200 freestyle relay world record is kind of the same situation. I mean, it's been around since, when was that? Like Rome? Or around that time?
I think it was Rome, yeah.
Yeah, it was like Barons, Lochte, Phelps, and Walters, I think. I think it's like a 144 high average. And I mean, what were y'all this year?
We were 0.5 off it. 0.5 off it,
right on top of it. So, I mean, it would be a pretty interesting situation to see both of those Team USA world records flip over to the other side of the pond in Paris. It has kind of felt like those world records have been, I don't want to say they've like overstayed their welcome, but the 100 free's gotten so much faster. The 200 free's gotten so much faster. And, you know, with the removal of the super suits, I think the 200 freestyle and the 400 freestyle, and once you like really start to drag those hips towards the end of that race, those suits definitely provided a significant advantage. But it seems like we're at that point, you know, and like you mentioned in the 400 IM world record, I think that one was one that was like, holy shit. Like, I didn't think that world record was going to get taken out. You know, when you have Kalish going 405, when you have Carson Foster going 406, these big names, you're like, man, this world record is just astounding. And then you have one guy come along and it's over. And, you know, that is kind of the beautiful thing in sport. But on the other side of the coin, I feel like it's time. I feel like it's time for those world records to go out. And I mean, y'all are looking pretty damn good.
I'll tell you what, maybe even sweeter by the fact that, I mean, no offense, but taking it off you guys would be the cherry on the cake. No, you're right. You're 100% right. Look, we were knocking on the door of that 4x2 in Tokyo, 3/100ths of a second off breaking that, and that was with, you know, a great race from everyone. But, you know, I could have let off slightly quicker. You know, say what you want. The takeovers could have been slightly sharper, whatever. You know, a few weeks ago in Japan, like you said, all the takeovers were very much on the safe side. If you go back and look at the splits, you know, if we had our normal takeovers, then it's a world record straight off the bat. You know, and everyone swam great races there. You know, 145 from Duncan lead off, 145 Jimmy, Matt down in the 144s, myself back in the 143s, which was nice. You know, so we're knocking on the door of it again. But yeah, it does feel like across the board, you know, considering I've only been on the senior stage for 5 years, the super suit records are starting to get caught up. You know, look at that 400 free. No one was touching that 340 barrier for a long while, and all of a sudden we've got two guys knocking on the door. You know, it's only a matter of time till it's a 339 that we're talking about, which is crazy. The 200 free, you know, people were a long way off. 145s was winning world champs and stuff like that, you know, and the 142 flat seemed like a million miles away. And to an extent, it is still a long way away, but we have got a guy in the world who's gone a 142 high, and he's gone 143s and stuff like that. And say what you will about his performances this summer, he's still done that in the past, and it'll be interesting to see how he kind of resets heading into Paris. So, yeah, I think you just need a perfect storm of the ideal swim, the ideal moment, for example, in Olympic Games, or a team really coming together when they need to and stepping up for the Olympics, which is exactly what I think we do as a country. So, yeah, look, Super Suits records have seemed untouchable for the last decade or 12 years, whatever it's been, but it's starting to feel like, you know, people are knocking on those doors. That 400 free, you know, just thinking back to it, like two guys going 340, it's just insane, isn't it? But I tell you what, one thing I love was watching these distance free races at the World Champs. What a cool! I think, to be honest, that World Champs, I was saying to Jimmy, I think after we were done, I was like, that's one of the best World Champs in terms of swimming performances across the board. I mean, like men, women, all different strokes, all different distances, right the way from the 50s up to the 1500. Like, what a cool World Champs to be a part of. And sometimes I wish I could just sit in the stands for the whole thing, sit back and watch the 2-3. I've been told so many times that, oh yeah, the 2-3 is a great race. The 2-3 is a great race. I'm like, I wish I could have watched it, but yeah. So it was cool. It was really cool. But no, those records are going, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to toot my own horn too much here, but I was actually, I'll have to dig up the tweet. I did say that I think the 400 freestyle world record is toast within like the next few years, probably about a year ago. I think it was when Lucas Martins went like 341.
Yeah.
And I was I always felt like, and honestly, the US is not in a great position in the 400 freestyle. We don't really have anyone down in that 341 range. And the world is proving that you got to go 341, 342 if you're going to be competitive. And the number 329 is like, or 339 is hard to comprehend. I mean, it sounds wrong, especially when it's a Biederman world record, when that guy went 142 flat as well. But back to one of the points you made, it really did feel like there wasn't even a moment to breathe during the world championships, because every single race had something going on in it. And I mean, I really think maybe like the race of the meet was like the 1500. It came down to 2 guys. But the storyline building up into it was like 12 guys. And I put out a tweet recently where I just went through like the list of active guys in the 1500. And it was like second fastest performer, third, fourth, 6, 7, 9, 11. Like it's just every single guy that is like within striking distance of that world record. And you've got Daniel Whiffen coming in there too, who's kind of who you could call like a rookie, a newcomer on the scene, who's got to figure out how to swim, at a world championship stage. But he's proven that he's got that 1434 in him, because he waltzed right back over to, I think it was U23s and went 1435. And dude, his last 7 strokes looked like he was finishing 100 freestyle. But yeah, dude, I mean, swimming in general, I think it's just in a great spot.
It's crazy. It's so good. And yeah, like that 1500, as a European swimmer myself, you'd see Romanchuk, you would see Greg Pout, those were the kind of real 2 big guys. I remember watching them go head to head so many times. And all of a sudden I was watching this 1500 at Worlds and I couldn't even see, obviously I don't think Greg Pout swam it, but Romanchuk, he's an incredible athlete, and all of a sudden I was like, it's changed, like the new generation almost coming through slightly, the next wave of these distance swimmers are coming through. And it's so great to see. And then across the board, like you said, like I'm obviously a swimmer, but I'm a swimming fan myself, and I love watching these kind of races. I was fortunate enough on that last night to be able to sit and watch the 1500 on poolside, which was so cool. But yeah, across the board, swimming like this world champs. I don't know whether last year, because the Worlds was a bit weird, because it was like, so soon after the games, and maybe there's a down year. There was Europeans, there was Commonwealth Games. Some of the Aussies didn't go to Worlds. Maybe it was a bit not quite. That's the reason why it wasn't quite as good as this year. And this year, I remember my coach Dave saying, like, this is a normal, traditional World Championships year before an Olympics. We have a full run-in. This is the same as what 2015 was before Rio, same as what 2019 would have been before Tokyo. This is where you see where people are at, and this is why it's such an important World Champs. And I think people are really starting to click onto that, and gauging where everyone's at and seeing what a full year of work with a proper taper and the proper World Championships produces. And it's kind of our first taste, kind of a bit of a trailer for what Paris is going to be. But yeah, so cool. And I can't wait for the swimming world to just be set on fire next summer. Saying as if I'm not even going. I want to be in. I want to be in that mix. I want to be in.
Yeah,
that mix.
We're hoping you're going to be there.
That's my plan. But no, I think you're right. It's exciting. It's really exciting.
Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, speaking of exciting and speaking of, getting to be a fan, if you had to kind of like carve out one race, we're going to go ahead and chop out the men's distance races, because we already talked about it. What was your favorite race to just get to sit back and watch?
Oh God, it's so tough, because there are so many across the board. I loved watching, obviously, Marchand's 4M, we've already spoken about that, which was so cool. Also, we have people winning triples. Like, look at Kaylee, who won all 3 of the backstrokers, or the Chinese breaststroker who got the triple. Like, just seeing that was really exciting. The Australian women's freestyle, just across the board, like Ariana and Molly just smashing it out of the park. Shayna and some of her splits on the 100. Like, yeah, they're pretty good. It is insane. It's like another level. I mean, some of the splits we were seeing. I saw Shayna, not Shayna, sorry, Ariana's. Saw some post on Instagram about now got the fastest relay split in the 200. And these are times that, like, these are times that put them in blokes races in Great Britain, and they're doing really well. It's nuts. Like it's so cool to see. So I think I'd struggle to name one. I would struggle to name one race, but Maxime Grousset, 100 fly split on the last day. Like,
Yeah,
that was just
fireworks. 49-2, right?
49-2. Like, that's an insane freestyle split, isn't it? So yeah, I mean, big Ryan Murphy just smashing out the park and still dominating. I was saying to Duncan, in terms of someone who's just been on the scene for so many years and just delivers every single year, which is what I think when you're an athlete within the sport earns you even more respect. You know, someone like Ryan is just like the best when it comes to that. You know, I remember watching him in Rio, like I was a little kid. You know, it was just kind of getting started, 15, 16 years old in the world of swimming. I'm watching him break the world record. And then I was at that Speedo shoot with him. Yeah. And then I was watching him win here, and I'm at that Speedo shoot, and we're having dinner together. And I'm like, this is so cool. So I couldn't pin on one race, but I think across the board, so many athletes that stood out, without a doubt.
Yeah, I mean, Murph he's kind of the guy that you know exactly what you're going to get, and it's going to be between like 51.6 and 52.2. And, you know, the way that it's unreal. And I mean, that's why he's always in that spot on the relay. Yeah. Because as a coach, you're like, listen, maybe this guy will go 51.5, maybe he'll go 51.4, but we know we're going to get a 51.8 to a 52.1. And he's also just kind of a dog on that 400 medley relay. Oh, yeah. I mean, 52.0, I think, is what he went on the last day after doing 200 backstroke or 3 200 backstrokes, a ton of 100 backstrokes. You know, that, speaking of world records, I think that probably that 200 backstroke world record might be slept on for maybe in the conversation for the fastest world record. But I mean, maybe this is another situation where we've got, you know, just a little bit of a lag, and then Leon Marchand comes along, but in backstroke form and drops a 151 maybe. And kind of blows our minds. But we'll have to wait and see.
So quick. Yeah, it's so quick, isn't it? Crazy.
Yeah. The splits in it are pretty nasty as well, especially when you realize that he didn't do it in a full bodysuit. Granted, I don't know that a ton of guys in backstroke are wearing full bodysuits. I think it was more of a leg skin type of competition. Speaking of not really anything, this is just kind of a segue into a conversation that I have written down on my phone in front of me. We're rolling out of World Championships, out of the big pool, and in America, I know you know, the NCAA season is rolling up. The short course yards season is rolling up. Do you pay attention to short course yards at all in the kind of like meantime leading back up to? I know you guys have short course meters. I don't think have a single short course meter meet that we run. Do you pay attention to the NCAA at all?
But between me and you, mate, in complete honesty, I don't. The times mean nothing to me. The conversions mean even less. And there are very few athletes that can move from one to the other. I do believe. Look, I think it's a good indication of fitness and stuff like that. Look, my sister swam in America for 4 years. She was swam at Duke, and I went to watch a dual meet, and it's exciting and it's different and stuff like that. But in terms of us in Europe, in Great Britain, looking at the Olympics, you know, we myself personally, the people I train with, my coach, we pay very little attention to it. It's only when you see something insane and incredible, like stuff that Marchand's doing, that you're like, okay, this is so far ahead of the curve that something special is about to is going to come from him. But yeah, other than that, it's just tough to put it in perspective. I always find when I come to the short course season, you know, between September and December for us, I have to remember what short course times mean and what short course splits are. You know, I'm so used to being, Dave's like, right, give me a 50 at pace, you know, and I'm 26.4 to feet or 26.6 to feet, whatever it is, you know, lock on. And I get to like September to December time and we're training for short course meets. Like, we've got European short course, and I've completely forgotten what my 2-3 short course splits are, my 4-3, whatever. It's like a whole new language. It's like a different sport. Honestly, it's almost like a complete different sport, because there are swimmers, men and women, who are so good short course, and I'm sure it's the same in the US with you guys, so good short course yards that cannot translate that into long course and what is essentially proper swimming. You know, that's what the Olympics and the Worlds are.
You're talking to one of them right now.
But, you know, if you're a college swimmer and you're unreal at short course yards, then you know what, go and make a mad career out of it and win loads of competitions for your uni. And I'm sure that's incredible and really, really exciting. But yeah, for us over the other side of the pond, it's like speaking a different language. Honestly, I'm not a big follower of the NC2As. It's not until people start doing long course comps I'm like, okay, got it. You're on form, and you're not on form kind of thing. So that's just how it is.
Oh, I think it's a fair take. Another like spin-off question off of that then. Would you ever consider doing a short course yards meet?
I'd love to do a short course yards meet. I used to train on Thursday nights back in my home club in Maidenhead in a little short course yards, 4-lane short course yards pool with like these little ropes and stuff like that. So I did a bit there, and we go to Flagstaff in Arizona once or twice a year to do altitude, and we train short course yards a few sessions, and it's good fun. We did a 4x2 actually relay short course yards. It was me, Duncan, Matt, and one other lad. I forget whether it was Joe Litch or Jacob Whittle or Jack McMillan. I think it's Jack McMillan. But yeah, we did like a little short course yards 4x2, and it's good fun. But it's a proper like lung buster, isn't it? Like it's a different kind of fitness, a different kind of swimming completely. But yeah, I'd love to go over and give it a crack. I think Duncan did one, and he said he did dreadfully. But yeah, I wouldn't mind blasting it out.
Well, hey, we've got one coming up in December of 2024. Maybe depending on how the channel goes, if we start bringing in some revenue, maybe we'll pay for your flight and give you a room over here, and I'll coach you on deck. Do you have any idea what your splits were in that 4x2? Do you remember?
Oh, mate, 130 low, 130. No, as in like 133, 134, off the top of my head. But this was like in briefs at the end of the session. This wasn't anything, because didn't Leon go like 129 or something nuts like that?
Yeah, I think he went 128.
129.
Yeah.
That's so see, even like I finished, and because I had the fast split of the boys, I was feeling pretty good about myself. I was like, oh, I absolutely smashed out the park. And someone was like, oh, Leon went 129. I was like, fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with like, it is a different sport. You're 100% right. If you watch Leon swim breaststroke long course and you watch him swim like a 50 or 100 short course yards breaststroke, it's funny. He actually just threw out the first pitch at a Diamondbacks baseball game. And I think he'll be the first person to tell you that he looked extremely unathletic doing it. But his breaststroke short course yards and his short course yards ability, I think it really comes down to just like raw athleticism. The dude's he is a water like athlete. He's obviously an incredible long course swimmer, but when you put yourself into, the bathtub and you're like bouncing off the walls and stuff, I mean, his breaststroke short course yards, I've watched it, 1,000 times at this point. It's so strange. He gets his hips completely up out of the water. I think coaches talk about, and I think you're decent at medley swimming, or at least you used to be. And coaches talk about getting your back out of the water, right? Like dry back. Leon's got like his hamstrings out of the water, so it's a very interesting thing. But I
remember watching his last wall just quickly on the 4 a.m. at Japan the other week. I was like, he's about to get deep for going past 15.
Imagine that.
4 a.m. Like I used to swim 4 a.m. back when I was younger, and I used to hate them. So it's so painful. I remember that freestyle leg was brutal, and that last term was like your legs are like made of lead. You can't move, and he's just smacking. And I'll tell you what it reminded me of. It reminded me of, and this is like proper swimming nerd kind of knowledge, but it reminded me of Phelps's last wall on his 2 free from Beijing, when he just goes under the whole wave of people and he does like 8 kicks off the wall. And obviously, as a 2 free swimmer, I know how tough that last wall is, and seeing that is just like another level. And I know Leon does that in his short course yard stuff, because I've seen some of the clips I think you posted, and it's like, it's crazy. Maybe it might have been one of his 100 IMs or one of his IMs. It's like he's a different beast, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. His lung capacity is insane, and I've talked to some people that talk about him in practice. I don't want to talk about him too much because this is a Tom Dean podcast, but swimming fan, it'll happen. He does that, I think, apparently all the time. It's just kind of like a thing that, it feels like an adaptation at this point. It's like he's more aquatic than other people, and the race that actually stands out for me, where I was like, this dude is like nothing we've ever seen short course yards, was he actually did a 500 freestyle at a dual meet in Arizona. I think it was against University of, I think it might have been Arizona, because I was out there, I was commentating it, and I talked to him the night before the race and was like, what do you want to go in this 500? Like, that's going to be pretty interesting. And he was like, oh, I think I want to try and break the team record, which he ended up breaking the team record by 6 seconds. But it was a 500 freestyle. So you've got, what is that, like 20 walls?
Yeah.
The dude was 10, 11 meters off every single wall. It was like, and the thing that I talk about is short course yards, especially for him, all he does is replicate a 25. Yeah. It doesn't matter what the race distance is. He's doing 7 kicks, 10 strokes, 7 kicks, 8 strokes every single time. And it's like, there is no deviation from the plan. And I mean, you have to be a special athlete and have special fitness to be able to do that and do it at speed for sure. But yeah, I mean, how interesting would it have been for Leon to go 4:02.5 in the 400 IM and get
deep for that
15 meters
Nuts.
on the last turn.
Crazy stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty insane. So, I mean, your meet, give me just kind of like a TLDR, just kind of a high level version of how you think it went. I mean, I think it went pretty well. Your 200 IM last 50 split was a standout for me, and then that 143 I would say was a standout as well. But yeah, give me just kind of the quick download of your meet out in Japan.
Yeah, it's been an interesting one because obviously I finished in Japan and then it was like no more meets, like I don't head back to the training center, nothing, month off or whatever it is. So I've not had a time to sit down with Dave, my coach, and talk through everything with him. I've not sat down with Jimmy. I've not really sat down with anyone and spoken about it. And it's been quite nice to, I like doing that. I like having a meet. It's really intense and you switch off completely. Look, I'm out here with my family at the moment. So we don't really talk about swimming that much. Like I speak to my mum a little bit about it, but not loads. But yeah, I was quite happy with it on the whole. I was happy with it on the whole. One thing I want to do, and I've been saying that I want to do, is go to Paris and, win as many medals as possible. And I want 2 individuals and 3 relays and just try and beat the record of the Team GB record at the moment and stuff like that. That's really what I want to do. So this was kind of a dry run for that. And I know that's going to mean a lot of back-to-back racing and, a full schedule of racing. So I was prepared for that. It took me by surprise a little bit in Budapest last year, but I was more prepped for it this year in Japan. And I was happy with it. The 2-3, 144.3, it was nice to be, I laugh about it because it was such a close race. And it's so frustrating being the wrong side of a touch like that. And I was the right side of the touch in Tokyo, and unfortunately I was the wrong side of the touch in Fukuoka. But yeah, incredible Brits 1-2. As an athlete and a competitor and someone who is competitive, it's so frustrating to be touched out like that. It's just like such fine margins. But at the same time, you've got to take the positives. I was happy to get back down to 144 lows. I want next year to really start to figure out how I can dip down and try and dip below that 44 mark. And I think that's what's going to be required. So that was interesting. I tell you what, it's also interesting to see how the world's moved on or not moved on in that event as well. And different people have come through and certain people have fallen back slightly. So that was interesting. The 2IM, 2IM was always the one where I was like, I need to get an individual medal here, as in next year if I want to get all these medals in Paris. So it would be really great if I can try and get one here in Japan. Leon, he was just like another level. I knew he was having a good meet. I knew he'd have a cracking 2AM. But there are quite a few guys that could have really been fighting for that podium, and they were. I knew Duncan was going to be a kind of a force to be reckoned with, and he'd really moved on to Worlds compared to where he was at Trials. I didn't quite swim the race how I wanted to, but it meant I had a lot more on the back end than I was expecting, and I just hit that last wall, and I was like, I can see everyone there. I'm just going to absolutely kind of gun for home. I knew I had a strong last 50, so I wasn't expecting to have one that quick. It'd be cool to come back, down in the 26 at some point, but I'll take a 7-1 for now. But yeah, and then podium was really cool because that's just what I wanted to do. I just wanted to try and get some silverware. Nice big chunk off my PB, but the IM, I'm like, there's so much work to do. Like, look how much your boys are like smacking me up on the backstroke leg. I'm getting absolutely rinsed on the backstroke leg. My fly, I can hold my own. My breaststroke and free are decent, but that backstroke leg, it's like I've got a weight around my ankles, so that needs sorting out. But it does give me confidence about my back end, so that was decent. And then the relays, 4x1 free, frustrating on the first day because I'm convinced we could have got a medal. I'm convinced we could have won, to be honest with you. I think we were. I think
a lot of people were convinced he could have won. Yeah,
the boys were flying, and even Jacob, who got us deep, like he was still a 47.3. Like that's shifting. That's not hanging around. And if it had been a few hundredths of a second the other side, then it would have been a question of who do we swap out here? So the one thing that annoyed me a little bit about Japan was I didn't get a chance for a single evening 100 free, and because of the nature of how many races I had, the evenings were always so much quicker than the mornings. I know I can roll a 6.6 or a 6.7 or whatever I did a few times last year. So that was slightly frustrating because it meant I couldn't swim the evening of the 4x1 mixed free. Obviously the medley, but I didn't have a cracking one in the morning. So I would have loved an evening 100 free rolling, but we'll park that for next year. And then the 4x2, well, that was just a lot of fun. I love the 4x2. I had a really, really great time with the lads, and it was cool to see us four back on top like we were in Tokyo. 143, that's exactly what I said. Tiggy, who does the relay for us, said, where do you want to go and what time do you think you're going to go? And I said, I'd love to go last. I'd love to anchor it and bring us home, and I can go 143 because I just knew what form I was on. And then going head-to-head with you guys was good fun because you had a pretty decent swim. But yeah, like I said, if we'd been a few things a little bit sharper, we would have been knocking on the door of that world record. But look, mate, overall, 3 medals, 1 heat medal, a few things that went well, a few things that could have gone a little bit better, but I'll take that as a whole. If you told me that at the start of the week, and that's how I always try and look at it. If you told me that at the start of the week, I'd be very, very happy with it.
Right on. Yeah. I mean, you've got a lot of opportunities to win a lot of medals, especially, leading into Paris. I know you're talking about maybe starting to shorten up the length of the race, but I think you were a pretty good 400 IMer back in the day. So maybe we just, double the length of that 200 IM, then you start knocking on the door of what Leon's doing in the 400 IM. I don't know. Just a little tidbit. Maybe we try that out.
See. We'll see. When you start coaching me in 24, then we can give that a go.
For the short course yards 400 IM.
Yeah. Exactly.
We'll let the real coaches do the coaching leading into Paris, and then after that, we'll see if I can dabble.
Yeah.
Oh, you're back. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I might have lost you for a second, but yeah, we'll leave the real coaching to the coaches, and then maybe after 2024 when we fly you down here to wherever that meet's going to be, the U.S. Open and short course yards, U.S. Open.
Sir.
So I don't know. Maybe we'll fly like 10 people in for that. Let's talk training just a little bit. I always like to, and I say I always like to, this is my 3rd podcast. I actually just did one with Ryan Murphy. I like to ask, what's the craziest thing you've ever done in practice? Because I remember a few things that I've done in practice back in the day. And it's pretty obvious, a few that stand out. I did like a weird short course meter 800 freestyle because I used to train like pretty long distance freestyle and then decided that it was boring. Bobby Fink and Ahmed Hafnaoui, Sam Short, and all those guys are making me eat my words right now. But what's just like a crazy kind of like headline style thing that you've done in practice where you did it and you were like, I might be pretty good at this sport?
Oh, it's a tough question. People always ask you like the hardest sets and stuff like that. We do pretty big threshold sessions. We do pretty big. I used to like to. We did this one kind of in one season, and it was literally a 3,000 negative split, long course for the second, but the second 15 had to be all out, so it was like 80% all out. That sticks in my mind. Oh, we do the Bruce set quite often, which is 3100s long course turnaround off 130, 129, 128, all the way down to the last one being off 61 or 60 or 61. That's a tough set.
And you made it?
I've never completed it. So the closest I've come is one short, and I've fallen down one short.
Oh, but you're kidding.
I know.
You did 29 and then missed it? What is wrong with you, Tom?
It's so brutal. But yeah, and my coach was like, no, you missed it. I was like, yeah, it's so tough. The only person that I know who's completed that set is actually Matt Horton. I'm sure there are a few boys out there right now, but it's a great test set for people who want to see where they're at, because it'll see, how many you can get. I've had some shockers where I've been struggling at 20, and then obviously some decent ones where I've almost made it. So that always stands out to me. And the other one I always say that's really tough, we do 5 100s suited off the blocks off 10 minutes with no swim down in between. So you just got to sit on the side. So one of those kind of real high-end tolerance sessions, which is always quite tough. And my coach is like, try hold 49s for all of them, stuff like that. So yeah, they're the ones that spring to mind. They're the ones that kind of get me on the edge of my seat a little bit. But yeah, all good markers of where you are.
I want to go back to that first thing you said. You said a negative split 3,000 just straight?
Yeah, we did it. It was like one of my first years in Bath. I don't know why it stands out to me, but yeah, it was me, Jimmy, and my training partner, Tom Derbyshire at the time, who was a 1500 swimmer. And it was like, 3,000 negative split for time. And the first 1,500 was like threshold. And then the second 15 was just go. And it was like, I'm not a distant swimmer, but I love those sessions where you're with someone and you can drop them at some point. And then it's like when you drop them, and it's like, they're class. And knowing you've kind of got that extra level that you can tap into. and you can kind of really push the engine. So that stands out to me. Yeah, I've not done that for a few years, but it is springing to mind.
Yeah, it sounds like a Bobby Fink mile type situation where,
A little bit.
know, in 2021 he got to sit there and kind of be like, nobody knows what I'm about to do. And then I mean, the rest of the heat definitely this year had at least one eye on him. Like, we know what you're gonna do. We know what's gonna happen. And Hafnaoui, kind of clapped back and said, you know what, I got some back end speed too. So I mean, talking about training, I mean, do you do a good amount of like long, we'll call it meterage, over here we call it yardage? I mean, are you packing in like 6,500 meters a session, or what's going on with you?
So I think the thing is, because when I went to Arizona, it's really interesting because I was the only person from my training group in Bath, but I got to train with like Duncan's lot up in Stirling, the Loughborough team. So like like James Wilby, Joe Litchfield, Abby Wood, Freya Colbert, who are Dave Hemming's group. Completely different training philosophy to Stirling's, completely different to Bath. And we don't really chase meters. Like people would say, how many meters do you do a week and stuff? And you should be hitting 50,000 meters or 60,000 meters. We don't tend to chase meters. Some sessions Dave will write, and it's like we'll have a 2K loosen in the morning, and it's you're done 2K loosen. And some sessions it'll be a $5,500 threshold effect set. Just the main set will be 5.5, and the whole thing will be 7.5 or whatever it is. So it really, really varies, and Dave always says it's about the size and quality of the main set that really we tend not to do much yardage that isn't for a reason. We don't do loads of just kind of slow ticking over stuff. It'll either be at an aerobic heart rate, at a threshold heart rate, descend to threshold, whatever it might be. So there's always kind of a purpose behind it, if you will. We don't really chase meters that much. We don't try to hit a certain yardage, and we don't do much stuff that isn't pursuing a certain heart rate. Well, none really. We always have the heart rate monitors in, and we're always on it.
Nice. You wear the heart rate monitor in the cap?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Nice.
On you, temple.
I tried to wear the Whoop for a while in the water, and I couldn't do it. I can't wear. Like, have you ever tried to wear like a watch when you swim?
Yeah, I wore my mum's Apple Watch once when I was out on holiday, just in this pool, and I was like, never again, not for me. Even the balance. We have these like Aura rings that you can wear, and I wear them when I sleep. And I tried swimming with it once, and even like that on the catch, it's so like I always think of it like if a golfer has a grip that's slightly different, a slightly thicker grip, they'll notice it, and it's the same in swimming. But even more so, I think, because it's all about feel for the water. So yeah, I don't know how you wore that. It feels weird, doesn't it? It's like you're lopsided.
I hate it. I absolutely hated it. And I train a little bit with Josh Pernot out here, and he wears an Apple Watch he doesn't even notice it. And I'm like, I just don't understand it. But you did mention golf, and I mean, golf is a game of millimeters. You mentioned that you were playing golf at the beginning of the show. What's your do you have a handicap? What's your kind of like relationship with golf? Are you playing probably trying to pack in as much golf as possible right now? Is it like an activity that you do on Sundays, or when you're not doing a 2K loosen?
Yeah, I tried to do a bit of golf. Jimmy got me into golf as well. But he's
draining your bank account.
Yeah, literally watches and golf. Like Jimmy could have put something a bit cheaper, but like bird watching or something. But no, he got me into the golf. He's a really handy golfer himself. He's been playing for a lot of years. I wish I could play as much as he does, but I just don't really have the time. Like he'll play 2 games a week, and he's got a decent handicap. I'm probably sitting at, I don't know, an 18 handicap or something. Nothing too exciting, nothing too special. But yeah, I try and get out and play when I can. I've actually got I've got like a pro-am next week.
Oh,
I don't know, like out in Switzerland that I'm heading out for. And they asked me, they're like, do you want to give it a go? It'll be a good laugh. It's a bit of fun and stuff. And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? I like my golf. There'll be a pro there. It'll be calm. Like, I'm not expecting anything. And they're like, brilliant, we'll sign you up, all this stuff. And they sent me a photo of last year's event. And it's a beautiful course out in the mountains, but there's just like thousands of people lining one side of the course. And I was like, also, that's the side that I always slice it to. So
that's an 18 handicap's worst nightmare.
Oh my goodness. And they were like, oh, it's going to be great. We'll announce you on the tee. So they'll announce you on your first tee. And I'm like, oh my goodness me, I need to really wrap my head around this. Like, forget being nervous for Olympic finals and all that stuff. This will be proper nerves. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I forget who it was that said, I think it was like a really high level athlete that then like took up golf and was like, look, I've performed in front of 10,000 people, but I've never been as nervous as I have teeing off in front of 3 people I don't know. Like in your little like foursome. And I 100% agree. I mean, I've swam in some like mildly big moments. We had like a dual meet out in Arizona with Phelps swimming in the breaks. I mean, the crowd was packed and it was really, really loud. Nothing compares to like the first tee, because one of my favorite things to do during the pandemic was I would just solo send it. I would just book if there was a 1 time slot left, I would book it and just play with 3 random people. It was like a fun way to like have forced conversation and try to figure out how to like have conversation again after we were all locked in our houses for a little while. And the first time I did it, I'm telling you, it was the most nervous I've ever been in front of 3 dudes I'd never met in my life. Was standing over this ball, like trying to fight those intrusive thoughts. I can't even imagine if there was someone announcing my name so that everyone standing on the right side then knew who to go find on Instagram and DM and be like, dude, you almost took off my nose with that drive.
Yeah, literally. No, fully, mate. I know what you mean. You know, in a group's like, oh, you can play through, and then you've got to tee off in front of them. That gets me every time. That's the worst. So I've got that to look forward to. I'm just going to flick some lights on. I realize the sun's going down. It's getting a bit dark. So give me 1 second.
No, you're good. We'll cut it with a fancy beep. Welcome back. We're back. Tom's got some lights on over there. We were just talking about golf. We'll finish up the golf conversation, then talk about like, I don't know, what your favorite drink is or something. What would you say is the best and the worst part of your golf game?
My best, honestly, when I strike it well, I can bomb the ball, like I can properly launch it. I think, long arms and some decent core strength kind of comes into play there. My worst is like, those like club length and a half 5-footers that you should be shooting all day.
Every amateur golfer knows that exact length.
And it's like when your mate's like, just sink that and we can crack on. And I'm like, oh, he thinks I can just sink these like it's nobody's business. But it's probably those ones that get me. So they need a bit of practice. But who wants to go to the range and just putt? Like I'd so much rather go to the range and just like hit bombs. So I really should sort that out.
Yeah, I think there's a certain type of brained individual that can go to the range and putt. And if you're not that guy, then you're going to end up hitting like 330-yard bombs until your arms and your lower back are about to explode.
Literally. It's more interesting, isn't it? It's more fun.
Yeah, but those 5-footers, I know what you mean when people are just like, oh, just go up there and smack it in. Sometimes that is kind of the right move, though. To just get up over it and just, especially if you just rolled one past the hole and you're like, I just saw the line, let me go replicate that real quick. Yeah. I'll like watch on TV because when I was in Arizona, I got to play with, when I was at school in Arizona, I got to play with some guys that ended up playing on like mini tours and stuff, and watching them like set up the ball for like a 4-foot putt and like reline it. I'm like, that's my worst nightmare. Setting up the line for a 4-footer and then getting over it and being like, all right, now all I have to do is execute. Executing in golf, I take my brain completely out of it.
Crazy, isn't it? Literally.
But you were talking about you're going to dinner with your family in just a second. We'll get you out of here in just a moment so you can continue enjoying your vacation. What's your like go-to drink on the golf course? What's your go-to drink off the golf course on vacation while you're not in the city with the white and blue buildings, but in a different city in Greece?
On the golf course, to be honest, Jimmy and I tend to tee off quite early when we play in Bath, so I'll just get like literally a black coffee and walk around with it, and that sorts me out. We don't really have like a halfway house. When I went to, I tell you what, I played in near Flagstaff with Duncan a few times when we were over there in May, and it was so good. We got to the halfway house, and they're like, "Do you want a hot dog? Do you want a burger?" Like offering us all sorts of drinks and stuff like that. It was class. Like it was really good. I think we should get more of that over in the UK. But no, unfortunately, we don't quite have that. So I'll just get a coffee that'll set me off the round. And while I'm out here on vacation, luckily I'm not training, so I can have a beer or two, which is nice. And they do a really nice thing called a mythos over here. But I don't mind. I'll if I'm not drinking, then I quite like, they do like a kind of like Greek lemonade, which has really been the go-to while I'm out here on holiday for the last week. So nothing too exciting, but that's kind of my go-to.
So you're telling me at a golf course over there in Greece, you're not going to hit a halfway house, get 2 hot dogs with ketchup, a Bud Light, and like a firework?
Just set it off and get the Stars and Stripes t-shirt.
Yeah, I mean,
no, not quite, unfortunately.
Yeah, golf over here is it's a different animal. I am 100% on board with the morning tee time. There's nothing better than this is turning into a golf podcast. Watches and golf. We're just talking about all of Jimmy's favorite things.
Yeah, cheers, Jim.
Leaving like the house at 6:15 for practice.
Yeah.
I'm not really in a great headspace typically.
Nah.
Leaving at 6:15 to go golf, I am alert. I'm awake. I've been up for an hour. I already have my shoes on. I'm tucked in, getting over there. And especially if you're the first tee time, because I like to play really quickly when there's that dew on the ground. And when you're driving the cart, do you guys have carts over there?
I know
typically
do, but
it's
not
walking.
As much as you guys do. Yeah, okay. You guys like everyone, everything's carts. Yeah, we don't have as many. I don't think.
We hate walking. We hate walking.
Exercise. Can you imagine?
Yeah. I mean, you're carrying your bag with your right hand. Where are you gonna? You have a Bud Light and two hot dogs and a firework. Where are you gonna put it?
What are you
gonna have to have a custom bag, right? But yeah, going out in the morning with the dew on the ground, like creating those first tracks. I like to say with the golf cart, and just seeing like the dew kick up, and you have your footprints in the dew with that black coffee. I would take that over the firework Bud Light hot dog round.
It's close, but I'd go for the coffee. Are you out in Arizona yourself then, did you say? Or where are you based?
I'm in Austin, Texas. So it's a different kind of the same climate, basically.
Yeah. Honestly, even in like May time in Flagstaff, it was quite nice. It's like 23, 24, which is lovely. But like down in Phoenix, apparently it's like at 40 degrees or more, which is whatever that is, 100 and something stupid.
Yeah, 110 if you're in the US.
Crazy. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't even want to step foot outside on a golf course in that kind of weather. Nuts.
Yeah, so I've done it. It's we'll leave it at that. And I grew up in the heat. I was always in the heat, so I can take it a lot better than other people can. But yeah, I mean, I didn't really do a summer in Arizona because I was out there I think 4 years, but I always came back to Texas, which was a slightly more mild heat. But I mean, like right now it's 107 degrees. So you cannot get a tee time out here before 11, because people don't want to go out at 1 o'clock. Yeah. Because from 1 o'clock to 5, you're just going to be playing in 103, which is probably close to like upper 30s. And it's just going to heat up by 1 degrees the entire time you're playing until you stop. So if you tee off at like 5, it'll slowly get cooler and it kind of tricks your brain. But if you tee off at 1, it just slowly gets hotter, and then you go get in your car, which is like, so when I was in Arizona, we would actually put, because we all had like our first cars, we would put like a tray of cookies in the car, like on the dashboard, and come out and they would be like the perfect gooey cookie afterwards because it was so hot. And you could also, we cooked a steak on the sidewalk in a cast iron. Jesus. It wasn't good. I don't think we ate it. I think it was like completely raw. But I mean, we threw the steak on there because we were like, it would be crazy if this thing actually cooked.
Yeah.
Threw the steak on there, and it was like you were searing it. It was a sizzle. It was, it was nuts.
I was speaking to someone, I can't remember who it was, but they did a meet in Phoenix or in Arizona in summer. And they said the blocks, like when they got on the blocks to race, they were so hot. And I was like, it's such a foreign concept to us because, well, first of all, outdoor pools are a foreign concept to us. That's just not the done thing. Like Australia, when we go on camp, that's the closest you kind of get to it. But I can't imagine stepping up to a race and like the blocks being so, like people didn't want to walk out into the sun until like the last second, which is just nuts, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that was actually me yesterday. So I train at Lifetime in Austin. There's a little plug. Yeah. And I walked all the way up to, because I put my not my blocks, I put my goggles and cap on right next to the pool. And I walked out there and was like starting to put it on. I had to bail and run back inside because the ground was so hot, which is wild that an establishment of that size, because it's a huge chain of gyms, hasn't figured out how to make the deck outside not burn your feet.
Cool.
It's like, I probably signed something when I signed up that they're not liable for it, but it seems like if I walked around out there for, exactly, little lawsuit, and then we're flying Tom Dean over here for a short course yards meet in December.
Get them done. Yeah.
Right on, man. All right. Well, I appreciate you jumping on. We'll get you over to dinner. We'll get you over to enjoy your, what was the Greek drink, just in case I go over to the blue and white building area?
A nice ice cold mythos. That's what you want to go for. They're lovely.
All right. I'll have you DM me how to spell that, but appreciate you coming on. Hopefully it won't be the last time. We'll get you back on here when I'm not in kind of my my own halfway house. There's no Bud Light, hot dogs, and fireworks here, but moving into a little bit of a new studio. We'll get you back on here, and we'll hopefully get you back on here right after Paris when we're preparing for me to coach you at the 2024 U.S. Open short course yards, where you'll break a couple Leon Marchand NCAA or U.S. Open records or whatever you want to call it. Enjoy dinner. Thanks for coming on. We'll do it again soon.
Thanks very much. Cheers, Carl.